This community task force initiative began really as a grassroots effort by the residents of Washington Avenue, the Washington Avenue Neighborhood Association, to bring their concerns and issues regarding traffic, safety, various other things on the 213 corridor to the attention of the SHA. This ultimately led to a request by the town to the SHA for Chestertown to be considered for one or more of the programs that SHA had that addressed the concerns that often arose in towns where state highways were passing through community. The town also requested for consideration for the Community Enhancement Program funding, and SHA's response was very supportive, both to the Washington Neighborhood Association and to the town, and they requested that the town establish a task force to identify the issues that the town wanted to have addressed and to make recommendations regarding them that could be put together in a task force report for submission to SHA. And that's how we came into that point. The council decided or requested to expand the scope of the report, not just to include Washington Avenue and Maple Avenue, but to cover all state roads in the town, particularly Flatland Road, Route 514, and we've tried to do that. You may remember that there was a sidewalk feasibility study on Flatland Road conducted in 2013, and you'll see in the report that we have recommended that be revitalized and given some attention, and possibly become the basis for some work in that area. The two categories of recommendations that you'll find in the report are the following. The first is the reduction of heavy traffic on Route 213 and general traffic quietening along that route. And secondly, the second category is the installation of new or the enhancement of existing crosswalks, sidewalks, and the improvement of pedestrian safety on routes 213, 514, and 291 and 20. I would just like to, this is the only one that I'm going to actually read from the report, but I would like to read this one in relationship to the traffic problem, because this recommendation drives it all, separating it from the pavement issues. What we say on that is the best solution is a bypass, which we strongly support. But while supporting a bypass, we recognize that its completion is not practical in any reasonable amount of time to address these immediately pressing problems. Therefore, we support placing restrictions and rerouting of heavy truck traffic along the Route 213 corridor from the Chester River Bridge to Morgue Neck Road, excusing farm and emergency vehicles and local deliveries. And that pretty much drives our recommendations in relationship to that first category. The crosswalks issue, and the sidewalks are in bad repair. SHA themselves have said that they've fallen below standards, below criteria as a result over the years of resurfacing of the roads. The sidewalks, curbs are no longer the required height, and the concrete itself is deteriorating, and so on. There's need for enhancement of crosswalks to improve pedestrian safety, both along the 213 corridor and other parts of town, particularly in the Flatland Road area. So that basically is all I really want to say tonight, and would like to thank the community that we represent. We would like, on their behalf, to thank the mayor and the council for throwing a spotlight on these issues, and for SHA of coming to the table and showing some interest in helping us to address these problems.
We have a letter of support from the local town. I use that to go after the funding for sidewalk. For existing sidewalk, we have one fund group for reconstruction of sidewalk. For new sidewalk, we have another fund group. And if the town has a sidewalk ordinance, that covers the town's participation in that.
So what you need from us basically is a letter endorsing these recommendations,
supporting this,
signed by all of us?
Yes, the mayor and council.
Great.
And Jeff Wentz will go after the roadway safety issues like the speed limit reduction, crosswalks, crosswalk locations, lighting, ped signals.
Okay.
So I do want to just clarify that there are funds available to address specific sidewalk infrastructure, correct? For existing and sidewalk infrastructure that's currently not there?
There are funds.
Okay.
They compete statewide, but if it's a good, clean project and we don't have environmental issues or anything significant, every project that we put through design is going to construction.
Right. And you see that the area of Flatland Road, which has no type of infrastructure whatsoever, is a little bit de-emphasized in your report. It's certainly there, absolutely, but we're talking about an area that has no type of sidewalk infrastructure, juxtaposed next to an area that, the infrastructure is in a state of disrepair, but at least it's there, Was there any type of actual pedestrian study that was conducted where you were actually counting the number of pedestrians when it came to actually determining what the overall priorities were when it came to sidewalk installations?
All we really had in regard to that was the feasibility study that was conducted in 2013. And we saw that as the, if that got revitalized and during the course of approaching it refined, that was the basis for looking at that. And since the feasibility study had already been conducted and had been accepted really as a concept paper, but at the time, as I said, at the time the funding was not available, and therefore the project didn't go forward. My understanding from Tom, although I'm not putting words in his mouth, is that the situation is different now. And with this initiative, we can pursue that.
Right. Okay. Well, I would certainly love to endorse, the report that you all drafted, but, I would want to see Flatland Road become that main priority when it comes to the actual sidewalk installation. When we're talking about the overall safety of our pedestrians, we have a region in the town that is trafficked all hours of the day and also at night that has no type of infrastructure whatsoever. So the main goals of the report is to, of course, address the safety of our pedestrians and our motorists in Chestertown. We have an area that has a lot of pedestrians and no infrastructure. It seems to me that that would be the main priority. And obviously I'm speaking from a perspective of a representative of Ward 3. Let me throw that out there. However,
no kidding.
When it comes to actual boots on the ground and people walking, you seem to have a lot more pedestrians on Flatland Road that are much more visible and they're right on the road. With that, at least with Washington Avenue, there is that setback, and they're not physically walking on the main street. And we're also, you know, talking about an area where you can't walk into town from an entire main state highway that has several neighborhoods coming off of it. I mean, was the discussion about the new Gateway Park and all the infrastructure that was just added with the rail trail and the roundabout, I'm assuming that was incorporated in the overall discussion as well, correct? Because I feel as if that's a natural kind of piggyback off of the work that we've already done and already started. And you're also talking about an area that has arguably the most children in Chestertown also. So, you know, I endorse the report, and I think you all did a fabulous job, and I'm not really, you know, here to argue and get into the weeds. I would just like to propose that, you know, the installation of sidewalks on Flatland Road become more of a priority and more of an emphasis.
Why don't we change the wording to equally as important as the work on 213 is the work on Flatland Road? And I think that's a fair thing.
Well, I think
one from one the other, but it's no problem for us when we submit this to change that to.
Maybe the addition of a paragraph justifying, just as the words you've been using, justifying that recommendation there would strengthen it.
Well, I think my recommendation is gonna be that we have our staff draft a letter endorsing the report, adding some language about Flatland Road so that it has, you know, the weight, it's weighted a little more equally. Well, thank you guys. I hope you guys don't take our feedback to mean that we don't think you did a good job, because we absolutely appreciate everything that you guys did. You volunteered your time, and it created a great report. And we will endorse all of your recommendations. We may add some language to make Flatland Road maybe a little more visible in our letter to the SHA, and then we'll keep moving the ball forward on that.